Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's celebration of service for the Bloomington Rotary Club. It's a little heavy on the mic. It's March 22nd, and I'm delighted to see you all here in the newly refurbished Georgian Room. It's our first time back. The walls are bedecked with images of student leaders at IU. It's a lot more diverse than it used to be in here. I really enjoy that. So they're checking on the mics. Okay, good. It is World Water Day. This is not just a Rotary thing, but this is an international day that's been celebrated since 1993. The purpose of World Water Day is to educate about the importance of water to the whole world and to raise awareness, of course, about the water crisis. Here in Bloomington, we take access to clean water for granted, but we shouldn't. We should all try to conserve our water every day. And of course, around the world, 1 in 10 people don't have access to clean water. I'm proud that Rotary does a lot about that. I'm grateful to Rotary International for making water a priority. And with that, you may be seated, and Charlotte Zitlow will be giving the reflection.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I'm never sure whether I'm unmuted or not. But today I'm going to talk about life. Life. Water is life, of course. And I do want to reiterate, we live in a community which depends on Lake Monroe for our water. And we do not pay sufficient attention to the importance of keeping Lake Monroe unpolluted and clean enough to continue to be a resource for us. And we should keep that in mind as we go forward. Policy change makes a difference. But I want to say that life is precious. Yesterday, I came over here for another meeting, and I'm just happy that we got here without having witnessed any traffic deaths on the way, because we came down 7th Street and the cars were going here and there, and the buses, we were inching along, and students were running in and out without not apparently understanding that there were large vehicles that could really do them damage should they not be seen. So I was pretty impressed with the lack of care that people were giving to their lives as they wandered down 7th Street, which is hard enough now to get down and not to go in the bicycle path and be a car that is involved in such an incident. So remembering that life is precious, I also think I began to think about how lucky we are as people who are alive in this room and in our club. We are really lucky. We're lucky to be here today, mainly in person, to be among friends that we care for, to talk about things that are important to all of us. That is a very lucky thing. And we're lucky to have access to, we all have plenty of food, we have plenty of water to drink, and other liquids, not mentioning any. Okay. But we also are very lucky to live in a country that pretty much is a place where people can speak out. I was just watching the hearings on the judges and just being reminded of how important the law, the rule of law is in our country. We're very lucky for that. And I think that this is a time for us to sit down and think about making sure that, yes, we move forward in our lives, our daily lives, that we be kind, be nice to each other, not try to get each other. The gotchas are just so offensive, and this is an organization that that believes that that's not the proper way to behave. So I believe we're lucky, and so I'm grateful for all of you to be here today, alive, not being the victims or the perpetrators of a traffic death, and devoting our lives to doing our best for others, service before self. So I think those are things to consider as we move through our day and through our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. We have several guests today whom I'd like to introduce. First, Cameron Greer is a guest of Aaron Brewington. Cameron, would you stand? Cameron is with Patronicity. And secondly, Vivian Bridges, a longtime friend and wife of our beloved Randy Bridges, is here as a guest of Jim Bright. Cameron, we're thrilled to have you here today, and Vivian, come back anytime. What about on Zoom? Joy, do we have any guests on Zoom today?
Yes, Sally, we do have a few guests on Zoom today. Of course, we welcome with open arms Ann Bright, guest of, I think, Jim Bright. Okay, hi, Ann. And then we're very happy to have with us from the New Albany Rotary Club, Susan Adams, who is the district coordinator for the four-way test speech contest. So glad to have you with us, Susan. Thank you. And I think that's everybody on Zoom.
I see also Teresa Clare, but
oh, Teresa, my goodness sakes, that
should not
honey,
even be
sorry.
considered any longer because
that
she's
was
going to
my
be
oversight.
as a new member in a very
Yes.
short period of time.
We're coming soon.
So to all of you guests, please come back and visit at any time. And Susan Adams, we're not going to give your big news out today, but we're going to do it next week. And we're very excited about the winner of the district four-way test contest. And thanks to you for your work with that. Okay. Thanks as always to our hardworking tech team. I know that this week, because we were trying out a new room, Alan and Dave were here at 10:30 in the morning. And Michael Schrimmus along with them. And thanks to our Zoom host, Joy Harder. The roundabout reporter for this week is Susie Graham on Zoom. Thank you, Charlotte, for the reflection, and to Winston Schindel for being our greeter. And I urge you to sign up to greet, reflect, and introduce guests at any time for the final quarter of this year, this presidential year, my final quarter. Yes, please. Okay, good. It's true. Now, we have no birthdays this week, interestingly, but some significant member anniversaries. And I'm going to start with Dean Watson, who's been a member of our club for 12 years, but a Rotarian for 61 years. Wow. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that makes Dean the dean of Rotarians in our club. Now, Bryce Bowe and Hank Walter have both been members of our club this week for 5 years. That's pretty great. And then finally, Jim Bright. Now, Jim Bright, you might have thought has been a Rotarian his entire life since he was a child. But no, it's been only 15 years. Jim, you know, you are Mr. Rotary to us, and you've been a mentor to me and to all of the presidents before me and after. And we would not be the club here in Bloomington without you. So thank you, Jim. Only 15 years. Oh. Okay, we've got some photos to share with you. Remember during our centennial year in 2018 when we planted all those trees? Well, one of the trees to commemorate the 100 years of our club was planted at Switchyard Park, and it recently got its plaque. So the next time you visit our city's newest park, be sure to look for our tree. There it is. It's a Dawn Redwood, and it's somewhere behind the amphitheater. So go out, get some fresh air in your exercise, and look for the Rotary tree. Now, Couple of other announcements before we get to a special presentation. First of all, the Rotary Foundation Board meets right after today's meeting. Please join Sarah Laughlin for that if you're on the board. Second, we can use more volunteers for our district grant project, the Lotus World Bazaar, on April 1st and 2nd, 1st or 2nd. And then finally, time is running out for the district conference on April 9th. Please make Jim Bright and me happy by registering for the conference. If it's your first time, our club will pay for half your registration. So that's it for announcements. With that, I would like to invite Mike Baker and Lance Eberly to the podium. And can we get a spotlight on Bryce Bowe on Zoom?
Good afternoon. Good to be back here. I've been absent for a while, but I'm back. Peggy Frisbee's somewhere south, I think, and so I'm filling in for her today on a special day. Today we recognize 3 members of our club as Paul Harris Fellows. Paul Harris recognition is given for donations of $1,000. Some people do it all at once, some do it a little bit at a time. It all adds up, and it helps Rotary International's efforts to improve the lives of people around the world. In this time of international conflict, please remember how important your donations are to Rotary International and the foundation. Right now, Rotary clubs in the Ukraine and Poland and other countries are working to help the refugees and those who remain in Ukraine to survive the invasion of their country. Donations are needed and can be made easily through Rotary International website or by asking Natalie to add money to your monthly or quarterly invoice. Now let's get on with the Paul Harris Fellow presentation. First is Bryce Bowe by Zoom. Bryce, are you up there?
I am.
Great. Bryce is a relatively new member of our club, and so we're pleased to have him with us. He's a member of the faculty of the Kelley School's Department of Management and Entrepreneurship. In his prior life, he has been a college athletic director, a business consultant, and earned a master's degree from IU Lilly School of Philanthropy. For that degree, he focused on corporate social innovation and social entrepreneurship. Bryce, it's hard to figure you up there on the screen. Yes, I'm pleased. Yeah, okay, right there. I'm pleased to recognize you as a first-time Paul Harris Fellow. Would everybody please join me in congratulating Bryce? I'm assuming you have your pen, or someone will pin you. So
Yes.
next, we have Lance and Sally, both for Paul has a presentation today. They've both been in our club for a number of years, serving the larger Rotary world in many ways. Sally, our current club president, and previously in many roles in our club. Lance, as a longtime volunteer in our club, past president, and currently district governor-elect. We're all thankful for your dedication to Rotary. Let me now present you your pens, but you're going to present your pen to each other, right? So go ahead.
At the same time?
Much better than me trying to do that. Would everyone please recognize our 3 Paul Harris Fellows today?
That was fun. And Lance and I succeeded in not sticking each other with the pins. So with that, Jim Bright, would you please come forward and introduce our speaker?
Thank you, President Sally, and hello, everyone. You know, in my 15 years as a Rotarian, it's quite possible that I've been to 1,000 Rotary meetings. And in those 15 years, in those 1,000 Rotary meetings, I've never welcomed a trash talker to the podium. And today, for the first time, not only am I going to welcome a trash talker to the podium, but somebody with 16 years of experience in talking trash. I'm talking about Ben Pearson. Ben, a member of the Republic Services team. It lives in Carmel, Indiana. And Ben grew up in Phoenix area, earned his bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Arizona in Tucson, where he graduated with highest honors. He joined Bloomington Rotary back in September. Now, if you ask Ben about his business, he'll tell you, hey, we're always picking up. I know, okay. In fact, the company makes 5 million pickups each and every day, including right here at the Indiana Memorial Union. Ben's business unit covers Bloomington, Terre Haute, and Vincennes. He oversees 4 hauling companies, 3 transfer stations, 2 landfills, with nearly 180 employees who handle trash disposal and environmental services in 40 counties between Illinois and Indiana. Fellow Rotarians, a warm welcome for Ben Pearson.
Apologies for the trash jokes. That was maybe writing a little challenge. So we'll get the PowerPoint going, but thank you, Jim, for that introduction. Thank you, Sally, for the opportunity to present here. So again, Ben Pearson, so I'm the general manager of the Western Indiana Business Unit for Republic Services. It's a little bit easier to visualize just looking at the map, just how large of an area we cover. So it's about almost 40 counties between Western Indiana and Eastern Illinois. 180 employees, 4 hauling companies. So when we say hauling company, that's the trucks. Transfer stations, that's what you would recognize from around here. That's our location down off of 37 is a transfer station. So here locally, we've got a hauling company, transfer station, and then more than 30 employees. So a national organization, right? So $10 billion a year in revenue for Republic Services, number 2 in the country from a corporate standpoint, but more importantly, a local company here, not only in Bloomington, but over into several different counties from Western Indiana into Illinois. So ESG, I think Sally, you mentioned it as you talk about diversity and inclusion, environmental, social, and governance from an ESG perspective is a really hot topic, not only for Wall Street, but specifically for Republic Services. So up here, some of the awards and recognitions that we have been lucky enough as an organization to realize, whether it's being one of the best employers for women. And I'll tell you, in my 16 years with Republic, not necessarily what you would think of as a lot of female or woman employees coming through. And I'm happy to say that my sales manager is a female, my finance manager is a female, and couldn't be happier with that. And across the organization, we're really changing who we hire and who works for us, because we want our employees and our team to reflect the customers that we serve and the communities that we serve, right? So we don't need people that look just like us. We want all kinds of different backgrounds from a diversity standpoint, because that makes us better, right? It makes me better as a leader. It makes us better as a company. And then you go into sustainability, and we'll get into a few more of the details. Most admired company, we're on the sustainability index for Dow Jones. And again, these are much more, call it for the 43,000 employees that we have nationwide, that we get some of these recognitions. But here locally, we're looking to become an even better corporate citizen. And whether that's here in Bloomington or elsewhere within the markets that we serve. So back in 2020, we came out with a sustainability report, and just about everything that's up here you can find on our website. So I encourage you to go and take a look, because there's a ton of great details, very interesting information, and we'll get into some recycling stuff too. But came out with a 2020 sustainability report that didn't not only just covered from an environmental perspective, but also some of the different things that we're doing from a safety, engaged workforce, charitable giving, et cetera. So we'll just kind of start at the left. So safety is always number 1. And anyone that's on my team knows that. We want folks that show up to one of the most dangerous jobs in the country. We want them to go home in the same condition that they showed up at, right? Go home to your families. From clock in to clock out, you're my responsibility, and we need to make sure that you're going home the same way that when you showed up. So I'm happy to say that from a safety perspective, we run one of the top business units in our area and some of the top divisions nationwide, right? So we have a huge focus on safety. We're bought in every single day. My team knows that if we're going to do it fast or we do it safe, it's always safe. I'm happy to answer questions about it. And so from a safety amplified, we call it safety amplified. So it's one thing to say safety is important to you. It's another thing to say just how important. So we've really amplified that. So the goal as an organization is 0 employee fatalities, which is a no-brainer, right? This is bar none what needs to happen. And then also we've been starting to focus more on our OSHA reportables, so getting those down, because no injury is okay, right? Obviously a fatality is by far the worst. And so we'll just continue to work towards that 0, right? Goal is 0 every single day. Working on our engaged workforce. We have an employee survey that goes out every single year, twice a year, where it's a confidential survey where the folks provide us with feedback, and then we get to take that and improve it. So our goal as a company is 88% engaged based on the metrics, and we're already as a business unit at 85%. So we've got some work to do. We actually start that survey later this week. Excited about those results of what's coming. A ton of upside there, right? Especially in the labor market as it is today. It's a lot easier for me to keep an employee than lose one and have to rehire one. So figuring out what is concerning to the team, right? What are we doing wrong? Is there a leadership issue? Where is the message falling off? And going and getting face-to-face with those employees and having sometimes a difficult conversation, but making sure that they're remaining engaged. Because an engaged employee is a good employee, it's a safe employee, it's a productive employee. And again, labor market-wise, you can only imagine how hard it is right now to hire truck drivers, maintenance technicians, right, operators for the landfill. So these are very specific job sets, and also ones that we have a huge opportunity for further development. And then the one I wanted to kind of call out here, and we'll get to some more detail, is climate leadership. So what are we doing to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions? What are we doing to improve the productivity of our trucks? One of the things we're looking at is electrification of our garbage trucks. So right now we run on diesel. It is a Tier 4 system, so it doesn't burn as dirty. So if you get behind a Republic truck, you're not going to see that big black plume of smoke pouring out, because the exhaust is actually treated several different times before it comes out the stack to help clean it, right? Which to kind of minimize our impact. So you can see some of the percentages up here, but these are all goals that we've set for ourselves for 2030, and then we're checking in every year to see how we're doing along the way. I'll get into a little bit of what we're doing on the landfill gas side here in a minute. And then finally is on the charitable giving side. So I'm happy to report that we made a sizable donation to Habitat for Humanity at the end of 2021. And we will be participating in a team build day with Habitat for Humanity. We're also one of their leading sponsors here locally on their Builder Blitz. So we've allowed them to utilize dumpsters free of charge. And so as they're building out that community over there, Osage Place, that they're working on currently. So we'll do our build day there. And then I'm also happy to report that we're donating through that Builder Blitz. Again, our goal is to positively impact 20 million people by 2030. And that's as an organization, right? So doing our small part here in a local market as a local company to help support a very positive initiative. So talking about sustainable technology, so recycling is obviously one that this room here knows well. Got some more details on that, but I wanted to kind of highlight one of the other ones that just came out last week. It's we are opening a polymer center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now I know that seems like a long ways away, but what it's going to allow us to do is single-use plastics, bottles, milk jugs, laundry detergent. Oftentimes when we recover it and resell it, it gets downcycled. So what do I mean by downcycled? So it becomes carpeting, it becomes park benches. It doesn't become plastic bottles again, based on how clean it is. And so what this polymer center is going to allow us to do is handle everything from the point of origin, right? When you throw a clean plastic bottle in your cart at the end of the street, all the way to it becoming a plastic bottle again. So we'll actually be cleaning, purifying, shredding, so that we can sell this back directly to the manufacturers. And there's such a demand for it too, right? These organizations are looking at different ways to decrease their carbon footprint, to minimize the amount of virgin products that go into their material. So this is the first of many polymer locations that we're looking at opening, and that'll probably be opened later this year. And look for that to spread to the Midwest and back east. I mentioned renewable energy. We're working on capturing more of the landfill gas that's produced at the landfills that I run and turning that into electricity again, basically pushing it back to the grid. Also developing organics, so that's composting, different ways. You might look at me and say, okay, you're making money on the landfill. Why are we talking about all different ways to get volume out of the landfill? Wouldn't that take money out of your pocket? It's actually the exact opposite. Because for me, airspace at the landfill is most important, right? That ensures that we have a place to take all the material that's generated that can't be reused. So if I can divert those tons away and it's a supported business model, that's good for both sides. I save airspace at my landfill, which extends the life of that location, meaning I don't have to expand it any further, while also simultaneously doing what's right? Generating some additional recovery and diversion away from what we are dealing with. Our Indianapolis location actually operates compressed natural gas trucks. Given the miles that we travel in the markets that I serve, it doesn't make a lot of sense just yet. The technology hasn't quite caught up to the range that we need that diesel provides us right now. But like I said, the diesel that we are burning burns much cleaner than what you're used to. But we'll look for that to transition from natural gas even into more electrification. So we've got electric garbage trucks that are running in Boise. We've got them running outside of Charlotte. They're already proof of concept are out there and running. But as you can imagine with anything, whether it be Tesla, Rivian, or any of these electric car companies, range is the biggest challenge. And so think about that having to push a garbage truck holding 6, 7, 8 tons of trash. So just, again, the challenges that we are facing, we are early innings, but we are definitely on the cutting edge in terms of what it means to be a good corporate partner there. So I'm gonna kind of jump through a lot of these. I want to leave some time for questions because I think that's normally where the best dialogue comes in. But from a landfill perspective, this is not the county dump that you're used to seeing, okay? And so I know no one will probably accidentally be in Pimento, Indiana, but if you are, let me know and I'm happy to give a tour anytime. But that's where our main Sycamore Ridge landfill is. And all of the things that you kind of see on the screen here are details that we utilize and capitalize on. So all of the liquid that's produced out of this landfill, so kind of going back to the sustainability piece, right? We are good corporate citizens, not only to ourselves, but also the communities that we serve. So keeping everything inside the landfill is critical, right? So you talk about leachate, so this would be the liquid that's produced out of the bottom of the landfill. We basically build these cells, fill up these cells like a giant bathtub. So we've got layers and layers of liners on the bottom, and we're collecting the liquid and sending it to local wastewater treatment plants to make sure that it doesn't get into any stream or water table. And we've got monitoring wells across all sides, and then obviously heavily regulated by IDEM, which is the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. They're the ones that hold onto our permits. And if you don't have a permit, you're not operating. So you need to make sure that you're doing it the right way. On the gas side, so as the trash breaks down, we're capturing methane gas. So methane is what smells. So if you ever drive by a landfill and you know it's a landfill because you can smell it, they've got a problem. Because you shouldn't have any idea that other than it being a big pile, that there's any trash underneath there. So we drill down wells across our entire landfill and apply a vacuum to it to suck that gas out, and then currently we flare it off. We're in the process, and as a part of that flare, it removes about 96% of the negative methane impact, greenhouse gas impact that it has to, so if you drive by a landfill, you see the flare going, good sign. That means that gas is coming out, it's not producing odor. We are in the process over the next year or two of actually, they put together a portfolio, and our site was one of them that's on there, to make an investment in taking that flare and basically turning a turbine and pushing power back to the grid. We also have locations where the gas that's captured is pushed back to the local natural gas provider, and we're able to utilize those credits to run our trucks. So if you think about the natural gas trucks that are running in Indianapolis, some of those run free of charge based on the credits that we get from pushing gas back into the system. Kind of think of that circle of life, circle of trash that we are generating. The other thing that's really important from an airspace perspective is compaction. So we're making sure that we keep all the litter on site. I've got some neighbors that are farmers that we want to keep happy. We want to keep the plastic bags out. So we've got fences around the entire facility. Again, you don't want to know that you live next to a landfill. You know it because there's trash trucks driving by all the time, but we want to do everything in our power to minimize that exposure. And this is kind of the landfill gas to energy. We've got some different options. We have a closed landfill not too far from my facility that they're taking the gas. Closed landfill meaning no more trash will ever go in there, and we've capped it, but we continue to monitor it for more than 20 years, right? So we don't just cap something and walk away from it. We continue to monitor it for essentially the life of that location. But they're taking the gas off of that and actually utilizing it at a nearby brick plant. They utilize that for their boilers as a part of their process to generate. Eventually, we'll be pushing back electricity to the grid. We have some locations that heat prisons. We have a location in Georgia that actually pushes electricity to a BMW plant. So the BMW plant is able to be completely off the grid, just utilizing the energy that's produced by the landfill. And then I talked a little bit about the renewable gas that's basically pushing credits back. So on the recycling side, we've seen a major shift in that recycling model. And really what we needed to do is make it more durable. Originally, when recycling had rolled out, it was there was a ton of value in the commodities that were being generated, not necessarily properly accounting for all the costs that go into the recovery. So what we've done is gone back and renegotiated and discussed a lot of what the model looks like. It's the right thing to do. It's just got to be profitable, right? So we're going to do something that's we're going to do it the right way. So you've got collection, processing, residual, and commodities. So the commodity sales are what we're selling coming out the back end. China has a lot to do with that. I think what we've seen in the last 18 or 24 months is a less reliance on them. So we're processing a lot more of the fiber here locally. So the paper that we are recovering no longer gets shipped. Cardboard doesn't get shipped as much, if at all, over to China. We're processing a lot more locally. There's been a lot more investments here, so we're keeping the fiber stateside, which allows us to control the value of it. Same goes for plastics, aluminum cans, et cetera. But the key here is really how clean is it, okay? So what we created was a website that, again, anyone can go to, recyclingsimplified.com, and really breaking down what it means to be a good recycler. Because at the choice of what goes into your container at the end of your street, into your block, we no longer control that, right? So what we're trying to avoid is a lot of what we call aspirational recycling. So we see a lot of folks that go, I think this could be recyclable. It's like in reality, it is, but not with us. So what we need to do is again, kind of back to the recycling simplified, is these 3 simple steps, and it's not as complex as it sounds because it's know what to throw. The one quote that I always like to use is when in doubt, throw it out. So if it's a hose or a PVC pipe or a chain or something like that, just throw it out. I know that sounds bad, but a lot of times those things just gum up the system. Kind of going back to the bagging. I will say though, in all my years in the different markets that I've stopped in, the recycling that comes out of Bloomington is some of the cleanest I've seen. And so in terms of the education and the extra time that goes into cleaning out containers, so you've got empty, clean, dry, cleaning out those containers because that leftover food product actually cross-contaminates your neighbors, right? So you could be doing a great job at it, providing clean material, but someone next to you is putting full water bottles or full milk jugs. Now all your cardboard and all that hard work that you've done to keep it clean is now contaminated because it's all going into one truck. So the material from here gets loaded up into semis, and we've got a large processing facility in Indianapolis. So it handles 25 tons an hour, so about 250 tons a day of recycling goes through that facility in Indianapolis. So just for context, one of our trucks only holds about 5 tons of recyclable material. So that facility is going through 5 garbage trucks full of recyclable material every single hour, all right? And the reason we use Indianapolis is because it's an economy of scale. So we're able to bring in all the volume into one place. So it's about 250 tons a day, and recover more, have better technology in order to ensure that we are getting every single ounce that we can out of that material. So the one that I always call out is greasy pizza boxes. This is a big no-no. I know it looks like cardboard, but the fact that there's food contamination on it, again, this is probably the most common one that we see, right? Our greasy pizza boxes. The other ones are bags. Keeping it loose, so why can't I put it in a bag? So keeping it loose allows us to, again, better process it. A lot of the machinery that we are using up in Indianapolis are discs that are running on screens. So if you think about all the material hitting it, the bags just wrap around. Keeping it clean is also one of the major components. But again, we kind of keep it as that 1, 2, 3. And this is all on recyclingsimplified.com. And the reason we created this website was honestly from an education perspective. It's one of those where we spend money on flyers and we spend money on communications, but that choice is made at the end of the driveway. I would like to commend everybody in this room because, like I said, it's kind of a unique situation here. So in the city of Terre Haute, we handle the trash collection for the city. So the city is contracted with us to be their hauler. Here in Bloomington, the city handles their own, right? So we have a long-term disposal contract with the city of Bloomington, have a long-standing relationship with them, long-standing relationship with Indiana University, have worked really well with them on the education piece. So when we rolled out Recycling Simplified a few years ago, city was right on it, right? They understood it. They wanted to do the right thing. They understand the importance of it. But again, I just always go back to that education piece, and we can always get better. The other thing that we see, interestingly enough, so California was normally cutting edge when it came to recycling. They were the first ones to do it back in the early 80s to mid 90s. They've gotten very complacent. So their contamination levels continue to go up. And so all that's doing is we're seeing more and more trash end up in the recycling stream. And as folks become more complacent and more, like lazy is the wrong word, but I'll just say complacent with it. That's when you see more and more of the contamination come in because it's been there for more and more years. So that's why we've got a fresh push on keeping it clean, and then you sharing the benefits of better commodity recovery there too. So yeah, from a Q&A perspective, so what I really, and Sally asked this question earlier, why Rotary in Bloomington for me, I was able to join last year. I really look at Republic as a large company, but with a huge local presence, right? And a huge opportunity for us to improve our brand and improve the exposure of the company here locally. We've got more than 30 folks just here in the Bloomington market alone that are driving the streets every single day. They live here, they eat here, they go out, they've got families, 180 across the business unit. So, and we are committed to serve every single one of the communities that we're in. My biggest compliment is when I talk to people and they haven't even thought about their trash, right? I roll it to the end of the street, or at my business, it disappears in the middle of the night and it's empty again. That's a huge compliment for us, right? We like to operate in the shadows. We don't need to be the reason that something's going wrong, especially if it's a large manufacturing customer where if we don't get it hauled, their operation shuts down. So obviously a huge compliment if we're just operating in the background and everything's going right, but also something that you don't think about as much maybe every single day. And so again, just kind of using this as an opportunity to continue to educate and kind of providing as that local, a large corporation with a big local presence too. So with that, questions?
To a bag, and then the bag, and then where does it go from there?
On the trash side?
Yeah, it's the city of Bloomington.
Yep. So we've got a disposal contract with City of Bloomington. So they haul it to us at our location in just out there off of 37. So that's a transfer station. So Trash 101, landfills are very far away. Transfer stations are close. From a productivity standpoint, our trucks can only hold 6, 7, 8 tons on the street. And so we utilize those transfer stations to allow the truck to come and dump. So it comes and dumps. It's just a big shed, concrete floor. And then we're loading it onto semis and then shipping it out to Pimento, Indiana, to our Sycamore Ridge landfill.
The trash going to the bag?
Bag trash is much better. It's better for our trucks. For recycling needs to be unbagged, but for trash, it needs to be contained into bags.
Don't bag recyclables.
Correct.
Bag trash.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I would be curious to know, this is not a local question, but is there money to be made in recycling those huge garbage islands that exist in the oceans? Huge numbers of plastic bottles, that sort of thing.
Until the price, so the question was recycling all of the trash and basically bottles, cans that end up out in the ocean. I think the issue you run into there is just from a business model perspective. The costs are so exorbitant to go and recover those without a lot of value coming down the back. I know there's been 2 or 3 different folks that have attempted it. It's just very challenging because once you collect it, now you're in the middle of the ocean. How do you get it back to some place where you can sell it?
So I work for a company, we're one of your customers. We're probably doing a lot of things wrong. I'll come and talk to you a little bit after the thing, but one thing that I wondered is it only bottles you're collecting, or do you also take like plastic cups and clean plastic containers and that?
So what we focus on, plastic cups normally no, unfortunately, just because of the lining and the material that go into making the plastic cup. Primarily on the plastic side, it's water bottles, it's laundry detergent, it's milk jugs, it's mayo containers, butter containers, stuff like that. On the plastic cup side, those are normally trash just because they've got a film on it that we can't recover, as well as just kind of the contamination that goes into it.
So being that, I think the current statistic is only about 9% of all plastics really gets recycled. It's probably lower than that now without China buying it. What actually happens in the landfill? Is that a 400-year product sitting there decomposing.
It is. It is. And you know, and if you look at it, oil or the price of oil also impacts plastics because based on the resin that they're using. So right now we're seeing, and a lot of the plastic actually stays stateside. So a lot of the plastic material, when we sell it in bales. When it goes and gets ground up, as that price of oil continues to climb, we see more and more value from the plastics that we do recover. But yes, when it ends up in the landfill, that is its permanent resting place. Okay. Oh, Glenda, go ahead.
So is there any hope that we'll begin to be able to recycle plastics 3 through 7 again? At one point, we were just throwing them all in the trash or in the recycling, and now we are told just 1 and 2.
There's a potential for it. Unfortunately, the demand for the material coming out the back, it's not blended. I look at it a lot like glass. So if you look at glass, you've got clear, brown, and green. It's not worth very much if it's all mixed together. It's worth more when it's separated. And so it's similar for 3 through 7. There's just not as much of a demand for that mixed plastic as there is across the board on the 1s and 2s.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, Bryce.
Hey, thanks so much. Awesome presentation. I wanted to follow up really quick for folks curious with Owen's question about plastics in the ocean. I think it's a fantastic question and something that bothers me a lot. There are a number of organizations working on this, from non-for-profit all the way to for-profit, and even governments. I think there was actually a pretty big global government agreement recently. You could Google this, where national governments have agreed on some sort of solution, which was big news. But one of those that's a nonprofit working on it is called the Ocean Cleanup, and I actually have a pair of sunglasses that I got made of ocean plastic from their first ever haul. So they're doing really good stuff. You can look them up. It's called Ocean Cleanup. The other one that's interesting, just that comes to mind, is Adidas. Very much not for profit, or for profit, excuse me. They're not a nonprofit, but they've got ocean plastic they're including in some of their materials, right? Their shoes and shirts and stuff. So anyhow, for folks that are bothered by that, as I am, right? Microplastics in the ocean, there are some folks working on it, and there's some exciting stuff out there. But hey, thank you so much for the presentation. It was awesome.
Sure thing. You got it, Bryce.
When I was a member of the Warsaw Rotary Club, they have a huge plant up there where they recycle milk cartons, I think, and make lawn furniture out of them. I mean, it's an enormous plant.
Yeah, no, and that kind of goes back to the down cycle in terms of taking milk jugs and turning them into park benches and lawn chairs, as opposed to turning them into milk jugs again, right? So that's one of the big things that they're focusing on from a polymer center, is maintaining the value and getting to redeploy it.
Okay, so I live in the county, and so we box everything, bag everything, and drive to the recycling center in Ellettsville. And every time I go to where the big plastic machine is, and I look at what's in there, there's no way that can be, how could that be recycled, really? Is it?
It is, yeah. So we haul all the county sites from Monroe County, haul them to our facility, and then we send them up to Indianapolis to be processed. Yep, yeah, and think of it no different than single stream recycling in a cart at your house. The technology, material, labor in Indianapolis separates everything back out. Okay, so it comes in as a single stream, hence single stream, and then as it walks through the process. So kind of going back, not to plug my website again, but if you go to recyclingsimplified.com, they've got some great videos there of what our modern recycling facilities actually do. And it walks you through step by step. So you can see the cardboard getting pulled out, you see the paper getting pulled out. There's optical sorters that actually are reading the chemical makeup of the products as they're going across. And depending on if it's a 1 or a 2, shooting air at it, and it's going one way or the other. So there's a ton of technology that we're utilizing now in order to recover all those different. Teresa.
Thanks so much for your presentation. So I've been lifelong recycler and now realizing that I'm doing it wrong. So those water bottles that have a little bit of water in it, I had no idea. So I will let them dry out. And so thank you for the education. My question is about mattresses. So I moved to Bloomington in July of last year, and a lot of, and I'm on the east side, not too far from a lot of apartment complexes, and I probably saw 100 mattresses thrown away, and was wondering about the mattress recycling and what happens like to the, if a truck comes to, and there's mattresses that are in the trucks, like they just get thrown into the landfill.
They get thrown out at that point. If it's in one of our dumpsters, it's ending up in the trash. I will say that I do know that there are some local organizations here in Monroe County, here and specifically to Bloomington, that are offering some different options for that. But again, if it ends up in one of my blue containers, we're not doing anything with it other than disposing of it.
Thank you very much. This is from a slightly different angle. The president of Haverford College some years ago took a sabbatical and decided to act as a garbage worker in the suburbs around Philadelphia. He found that some people just treated him like the trash. Do you have any anecdotal evidence of how our people treat the people that do this very difficult but important job?
I am happy to say that all of the communities that we serve, they are very well received as for the job that they're doing, right? I mean, these are hardworking blue collar folks that just, again, want to do the right thing. So I'm pleased to say that they are treated extremely well with respect, and it's really not looked down upon. I think, and that's been great to see from my own perspective, right? Obviously, I'm partial to it, but I'm really not in a position to say that they're looked down upon or downgraded when they're out and about. So yeah.
So what is going to become of that landfill, that land? And then also, when you say you guys are monitoring it environmentally and stuff, what are you guys looking for?
Sure.
And what does that mean, I guess?
Sure. So that land will always be a landfill. And based on the property that we own today, we have enough space to expand for the next 350 or 400 years, right? So, and we're far enough away from town that there's not growth that's coming our way. In terms of monitoring, so we do groundwater and gas probes. So what we're monitoring for there is, on the gas probe side, is if any methane is escaping out. So our regulators will come around and check those probes, as well as our own folks will check them almost on a weekly basis. On the water side, we're making sure that none of the leachate, none of the contaminated water that's within our facility is leaking out, getting into the ground, getting into groundwater, getting into wells, seeping away from where it should be. So if either one of those things spike, we're digging down, figuring out a root cause, and that becomes top priority.
Thank you. Ben, thank you so much. On behalf of our club, in honor of your presentation, we'll be making a donation to Cardinal Stage. And yes, Charlotte, you can ask your question individually after the meeting is over. Okay, good. Next week, our speaker will be Michael Mccauley. You know him from his popular sculpture of Hoagie Carmichael playing the piano, not too far from here. Michael will be speaking on the foundation of your critiquing process in life via art. Woo! Okay. Alan, would you please share with us the graphic for the four-way test? And we will close our meeting today by reciting together the four-way test. +1. Of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Fifth, fun?
Fun.
I just watched the end of the.
Everybody.